And earlier today, Lieutenant Epps filed a complaint with NYPD Internal Affairs over nude videos of her that are now circulating on messaging apps. Epps and her attorney claim she was coerced into making the videos in Maddrey's actions to keep her under his power and—
Oh, hell no. No, see, I'm sorry. I really don't believe this now. I'm sorry. Nah. I covered this back in December. This was the NYPD officer who was getting ready to retire, and the New York Post did a story about her enormous overtime pay. So right after they announced the investigation or whatever, when the story came out, I guess she decided she was going to retire early, and then all of a sudden she started to accuse her boss of doing what she says he did in this video.
Now to an Eyewitness News exclusive. We are hearing for the first time from the woman at the center of that scandal that rocked the NYPD.
That woman, an NYPD lieutenant, accused the highest-ranking uniformed member of the force of sexual harassment.
In an emotional interview, Quathisha Epps talks about Jeff Maddrey, the former NYPD chief of department, and how she says he forced himself on her in exchange for overtime hours.
This guy is a monster.
Lieutenant Quathisha Epps, for the first time, speaking openly about allegations of sexual harassment that prompted former NYPD Chief of Department Jeffrey Maddrey to cut short his 33-year career in law enforcement, abruptly resigning as the highest-ranking uniformed officer in December.
Who's gonna believe me? Who can I talk to? Who can I tell?
Epps, a 19-year NYPD veteran, sitting down with Eyewitness News alongside her attorney about the EEOC complaint she filed last year, which reads, Maddrey engaged in quid pro quo sexual harassment and would coerce her into performing unwanted sexual favors in exchange for overtime opportunities. Overtime she previously expressed was needed.
And I want to go back to the story from back in December. So let me go back to the Post story. So the New York Post, they did a story on her, on Quathisha. They said the $400K a year top earner, Quathisha Epps, is retiring early as astronomical overtime pay is investigated, sources say. So she was the highest paid employee who shoveled in over $400,000 last year. That would have been 2023 because this came out last year. So she filed for retirement this week and was suspended amid internal affair probe into her astronomical overtime. Quathisha will retire just shy of 20 years. Now, it's an early exit that will impact her and cost her pension $12,000 a year supplement for cops who reached the 2-decade mark. So she retired just shy of 20 years, right? Leaving money on the table is seemingly uncharacteristic, the Post said, for Epps, who raised eyebrows by pulling in more than $204,000 in overtime last year. That would be 2023, like I said. For her administrative job, she pulled over $200K in 1 year in overtime for administrative job under Department Chief Jeff Maddrey, right? So after the whopping overtime was capped, it was capped once the Post exclusive report came out. Then Internal Affairs started to look into it, and apparently they had capped that overtime at that time and then said she was going to be put back on patrol, which she didn't want to do because she wanted to stay at the cushy desk job. So look, let me look at this. Now, this was a picture looks like from 2024. Now, I don't like to call people liars, but at the end of the day, I don't really believe her at this point, because we have to believe that, okay, so the chief of police or the chief of her department, he was harassing her. That's what she said. I'm gonna go back to the video in a second. He said he was harassing her and made her, I don't know if she said he raped her, because she's not quite saying that. It's almost like maybe it was kissing, maybe it was some other sexual acts, but he was basically pushing himself on her when they were alone in the office. And in return, she's saying it was a quid pro quo, which linked this overtime as if he was giving her overtime. Now, I'll tell you right out, I don't really believe that story. I think what happened is that they had an affair. He was hooking her up as his side piece or workplace girlfriend. She was racking up a gang of overtime. And I think before she was getting ready to retire and ride off into the sunset, this Post story came out, and then Internal Affairs started looking at it. And then she said, you know what? My ass is grass, so you know what? I'm throwing him under the bus too. Now, I'm not saying Jeffrey Maddrey is an angel, is a perfect guy. Obviously, he shouldn't have been sleeping with a subordinate, no doubt. But a lot of times, and I said this a couple months ago when I talked about this, if you're a boss and you are going to sleep with a subordinate, bad news. Because at the end of the day, when things go down, more than likely what's going to happen is that subordinate is going to say, you were harassing her. Let me go back to the video, though.
She says the harassment all started in June 2023 when Maddrey called her inside of his 13th floor office at One Police Plaza.
And it was in this moment when things changed for the worse.
Epps describing in explicit, disturbing detail the first time she says Maddrey forced himself on her.
And he keeps saying that he's sorry, but he's sick. It's like rubbing his chest. I'm like a chief of department.
The mother of three, struggling to get through the details.
1 second. He starts using his weight to push me into the room in the dorm area. And I feel like excruciating pain. And I keep saying, stop. And he just kept, baby, I'm sorry. Baby, I'm sorry. I just need it. He says he dreams about it. He just dreams about it. And then my body just kind of went like flat. I just trying to lay still and maybe it will stop sooner.
She says Maddrey, more than twice her size, had her pinned in a small space and she couldn't move.
I honestly don't know what was happening. I wasn't even connecting. Why me? You said you was going to protect me.
And for the next 18 months, Epps says Maddrey would often corner her when the two were alone and force himself on her.
Everything was in 1PP. I have never, ever had any type of exchange physically with him. He's never violated me outside of 1PP.
I don't know what outside of 1PP means. I don't know if she's saying he raped her one time. I don't know. Let me let this keep going. But something's still weird about the story for me because I'm trying to see how this links to her getting $200,000 in overtime. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to understand. So, and he said that he's going to protect her. Why would he be protecting her if he's just her boss? So let me let this play some more, then I'm going to give my opinion.
Maddrey's rank and power within the department, Epps saying she had nowhere to turn.
I never said a cross word about him. I just tried to lay low and survive.
In late December, an attorney for Chief Maddrey denying the allegations and sharing his side of the story.
Lieutenant Epps had a consensual adult relationship, albeit for a short time, with Jeff.
Maddrey's attorney reiterating this position when we reached out to him about our interview, also saying Lieutenant Epps was suspended from the NYPD in mid-December for allegedly stealing time because it's believed she falsified timesheets and was paid for overtime that she never performed.
Let me pause it there because that initially was the actual story, and that was the issue. So she was stealing overtime, and there was some payroll documents that either she falsified, and then the department, someone kind of looked into that, and I guess it was something that Maddrey, her boss, was supposed to be okaying, and somebody caught wind of these falsified payroll documents and found out she wasn't performing that work, and that's when this story kind of came out. So at that point, as they say, let me go into the next part, they also say that after she was accused of stealing, then she decided to make up the story to save her own skin. Now, I tend to think that this relationship was consensual. The only reason why I say that because it don't really make sense to me. You know, if you're a mom of three, and I'm not saying, look, I know women do get harassed on the workplace. They are, if you're getting harassed by your boss. I've never been in that situation, but I know that can be intimidating. But here we have a woman. She's not like a young girl, like a 24-year-old, or like a woman that doesn't have any experience. Here's a grown woman. You know, I'm assuming she's probably in her 40s, maybe 50s, but at least 40 plus, with 3 children, right? So to me, a woman at that age, I don't know if you're just going to be sitting there getting pushed up against the wall and getting harassed for 18 months and you're not going to say anything. I'm trying to understand, like, if you know it's something your boss is doing that's wrong, especially in the police department, you could set up a recording, right? You could have your phone somewhere when you know he's going to be around and have something audio recorded, video recorded. It's just too easy if you knew he was going to do that. So if he's doing that over the course of 18 months, you got mad time to try to get some type of evidence. You know, so what I think happened is that she had a consensual relationship with him. He allowed her to go ahead and pad some overtime, and that's how it works. You know what I mean? So I think for example, she's saying that she was harassed and he was pushing up on her, unsolicited, unwanted, for 18 months. Now, mind you, she was getting ready to retire in December, and she was leaving that money on the table. That extra $12,000 she was leaving that alone because she already had racked up a gang of overtime. So what I think is that she was getting ready to retire. She had this relationship with him. She's patted her pockets with this overtime, sitting at a desk making $200,000 in overtime. That is a lot of paper to sit at the desk, right? While you have cops out there risking, especially in New York, risking their lives. You got people stabbing people in the eye on subways. You got people burning people alive. You got all types of shootings, all type of migrant crimes. You got cops on the street who not making 200 stacks. No doubt about it. So she stacked up the bread, got ready to retire, and then somebody found out about the fraudulent overtime. And then she said, oh shit, I got to make sure that I have a story now, because I'm going down and I ain't going down without him going down. So that's what I think happened. Now, had she retired and this fraudulent overtime never came out, I don't think that she wouldn't have talked about the harassment. She sure as hell wouldn't. All this harassment that she's crying about and boohooing about, she wasn't going to say anything. She was going to ride off into the sunset with that money and be out of here. So that's what makes me say it's not real. Because to me, if you're a woman and a guy is, at the end of the day, I don't know if she has daughters, but what would you tell your daughter? If your daughter was being harassed like that, wouldn't you tell your daughter to try to get some evidence or quit or make some type of a complaint? You wouldn't tell your daughter, you know what, just stay in it and just see if you can get something out of it and then walk away from it. If this stuff is so traumatizing to her, how do you just walk away and just keep going? You know what I'm saying? So, and again, I'm not saying this doesn't happen to women. Women get harassed and raped all the time. But the problem is some things don't make sense, right? They don't really make sense. If a woman knows that a guy is saying, okay, it's a quid pro quo situation, and she really not about that, she's going to say, you know what? I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm going to retire. I'm going to quit and collect my pension and take whatever loss for retiring early. But you're not going to sit there and get harassed for 18 months, then collect all this overtime and say, oh, you know what? He made me do it. So I don't think it's believable.
After she was accused of stealing, that she decided to make up a story to try to save her own skin. We look forward to total vindication.
And he just explained to me that he was sorry. And if I didn't say anything, we keep this here. He would help me.
So there's naked video, and he now coerced her to make no. See, this ain't cool, because this basically makes it bad for real victims, because you're not getting, come on now, you're not a kid. You are a woman, a grown woman, and you talking about somebody coerced you to make naked videos that was sent to him, and now you're saying he coerced you to make the videos to keep control of you? No, come on, man. This story is not believable. I'm sorry. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. This is wild, because, I didn't believe the story when it first came out. At that time, Chief Maddrey was talking. She hadn't talked at the time. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Crucial Combo.